All right, level 1's and objective 17 is simplifying square roots. So I believe you guys did this last year, but I'm just going to give you an overview on how to simplify roots, and then the second line is multiplying with roots. So with roots, you can simplify it pretty much any way you want to, and you're going to come up with the exact same answer that everybody else will. So just because you broke this number down differently doesn't mean that you did it wrong. So here's what we're going to do. With 80, okay, I think of two numbers that multiply to get 80. Okay, some kids think 8 and 10 right away. Some kids go 2 and 40. Whatever you want to do. So I'm going to start off with 2 and 40. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, then 2 can't break down into anything else but 2 and 1. So 2 is done. 40 I can break down into 2 and 20. So the other 2 is done. Then 2 and 10. Then 2 and 5. Okay, so since all the numbers can't be broken down further, like 5 can't be broken down into anything besides 5 and 1, we say that that is done. So since everything is done, I start to look at the numbers on the ends, okay, things that have been broken down all the way. So I've got 4 2's and I've got a 5. When you have square roots, you want to look for groups of 2. So I've got one group of the same number and another group of the same number. Now, they don't have to be groups of the actual number 2. It just has to be 2 of the same numbers. So since I have 2 groups of 2, this is what I call this. I have the square root. I call that the house. These 2, so this group of 2's here, that number can come outside. Same thing with this group of 2's. It can come outside the house. Okay, now this 5 left over here, that doesn't have a buddy. So he's got to stay at home. He's got to stay underneath the house because he doesn't have a buddy to come out of the house with. So then what you want to do is you want to multiply anything that came outside the house. So 2 times 2 is 4. And then you have the square root of 5 left over. Okay, let's try another one. So 48. So again, break it down however you want to. So I'm just going to do 2 and 24 again. And then 2 and 12, and 2 and 6, and 2 and 3. Okay, so since now I've got everything that ends, okay, there's no multiple factors of it, I'm going to look for groups of 2 of the same number. So I've got one group of 2, 2 groups of 2. So this 2, 1 2 will come out. This 2 can also leave the house, so he can come out. And then the 3 is left over. He can't leave because he doesn't have a buddy. So then the numbers that are on the outside of the house, they multiply together. And the 3 is left over. All right, one more. And we got 2 more. We'll just do 1. Okay, and then 96. So 96, I can do 2 and what? 45, 48. And then 2 and 24, 2 and 12, 2 and 6, 2 and 2. Whoops, not 2 and 2, 2 and 3. Okay, so here's one of the downsides of doing smaller numbers like 2's. You're like making a huge long tree, but if you just keep on dividing by 2, dividing by 2, dividing by 2, or dividing by 3, you're going to get nice numbers, and it's just going to be organized a little bit better. So pros and cons to dividing by smaller numbers when you start, but again, you'll arrive at the same answer no matter how you factor it. So here we go, looking for groups. So here's one group of 2. Here's another group of 2. So I got 2, 2, and then here's special case. Here we go, 2 and 3. So this 2 in black doesn't have a partner, either does this 3. So they're both going to go underneath the house again, underneath the square root, because they don't have a partner to go out with. So just like the numbers on the outside, you're going to multiply those. So 2 times 2, that gives you 4. You're also going to multiply the numbers on the inside of the root as well. So 2 times 3 is 6. So then your final answer is going to be 4 square root 6. Looks like a B. 6. Okay? All right, if you want to look at number 4, go ahead and pause it, try it on your own, and then check your answer. Otherwise, I'm just going to do it real quick. All right, so the answer for number 4 was 2 square root 105. And now I know the 105 seems huge because we've only gotten numbers underneath the square root like 2 or 6. But sometimes it happens because if you think about it, the numbers that multiply to get to 105 are 3, 7, and 5, and all those numbers are prime. I can't break those down anymore. So that's kind of sometimes how it works. You're just going to get a larger number underneath the square root, and that's okay. One thing just to be sure of is when you are breaking down newts and looking for pairs, you're only looking at for the numbers on the ends of your trees. You're not looking at the numbers like 10 or 42 or 6 when you're looking for pairs. It's always the numbers on the ends of the trees that you're circling and bringing in outside the square root. Okay. Now we've got multiplying with square roots. So when you multiply with square roots, you can multiply the numbers on the outside and the numbers on the inside of the square roots together. So here's what I mean. So if I'm looking at the square root of 3, the number on the outside of it is very similar as if I were just to give you the variable x and ask you what number is in front of x. Hopefully you would say 1. There's always a hidden 1 in places. So same thing with variables it is with square roots. There's always a hidden 1 out in front. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the numbers on the outside of the square roots together. So that's 3 times 1. And then we're going to multiply the numbers on the inside. So the 6 and the 3. Okay, and then I'm just going to multiply 3 and 1, that's 3, and 6 and 3 is 18. Now, here's where you got to be sure that you check if you're done. I'm going to go ahead and break down 18, just like I did it before. So that's 2 and 9, 3 and 3. So, lo and behold, I have numbers that broken down, and I have a group of 2. So this number is going to come out. Now, what happens... So this 3 comes outside the square root, and I have the 2 that's left over here. So that's also going to go on the inside of the square root. And this 3 gets brought down and multiplied to that number 3 that I just brought out from the problem. So as a final answer, this is 9, 3 times 3, square root 2. Okay, let's try another one. Whoops. That's not what I wanted to do. Hold on. All right. Okay, so again, you want to multiply numbers on the outside, the 4 and the 2. So 4 times 2, and then the roots, 5 times 10. So this is 8 square root 50. And I'm just going to check the square root of 50, so 25 and 2, and then 5 and 5. And oh, yep, I've got a pair. So this 5 comes out. I'm left with the 2, and then the 8 from the beginning I'm going to bring down, multiply. So final answer is going to be 40, which is 8 times 5, square root 2. Okay, and last one with division. Okay, so just like with multiplication, we can multiply the numbers on the outside. Same thing with division, okay? You can divide the numbers on the outside. So if I just gave you the fraction 4 over 10, you would tell me, or use your calculator, to reduce it to 2 over 5 because you can divide each of these by 2. Okay, so it's the same thing with fractions with a square root. You're going to do 2 square root 32, that doesn't change, over 5. Okay, so it's very important that when you're multiplying or dividing, the numbers on the outside go together, and anything that is underneath the square root, or what we call inside, also goes together. So like I said, you can't simplify the 32 and the 10 to like cut those in half. It's only got to be the numbers on the outside of the square root. Okay, so now that we've got that, we're going to simplify the 32. So just simplify the 32 just like we would before. So 16, 2, 4 and 4. Okay, so here's another trick that I learned going through this is that, so 16. Now I know 16 can be broken down into 2 and 8 as well. I just happen to divide it by 4. Here's a key. Whenever you see a pair, stop. You don't have to always keep going until the very, very end, until you get to like 2s and 3s and 5s and prime numbers. If you have a pair of 4s, stop and circle those because you don't have to break it down anymore. You're going to end up doing more work for yourself than you have to. Okay, so since I have a group of 4s, okay, I have this 2 that's left over. So the 4 is going to come out. I'll have the 2 come from before and multiply to that. And then I have the leftover 2 underneath the radical. And the 5 from the start of the problem. So then I'll multiply 2 and 4 together, which gives me 8. And then the root 2 just stays root 2. And the 5 stays root 5. And the last thing that you want to look at is if you can simplify the 8 and the 5. In this case, 8 over 5 cannot be simplified. So your final answer, whoops, I'll write it in regular pen. Your final answer is going to be 8 root 2 over 5. Okay? Hopefully a lot of that was review. If it wasn't, not a big deal. We'll work on it all week. But it's a skill that we need for the level 2 and 3. So let's get good at this one.